Good morning, everyone. I'm Quinn Wisson from Vertical Measures, and I'm here hosting VM's monthly webinar series. Today's webinar is titled How to Successfully Respond to a Manual Google Penalty, and will be presented by our very own Director of SEO Services at Vertical Measures, Art Enke. Art previously worked in the domain industry as an internal SEO and a business developer for Name.com, where he was responsible for implementing new product offerings, including SEO Tutor. Most recently, Art was the SEO manager for F&W Media, where he organized and implemented successful SEO strategies that resulted in exponential organic traffic growth in 2012. We're happy to now have him at Vertical Measures, and I believe he just celebrated his 1-year anniversary here. Before we get started and I hand over the presentation to Art, I just have a few things to note. Today's webinar will be available for replay by tomorrow afternoon, barring any technical problems. We'll also be happy to answer any of your questions. So if you take a look at your webinar interface, you'll see a little chat applet where you can ask us questions. So if you do have a question for Art during his presentation, type it there, and I'll ask him just after his presentation is over. Alternatively, you can also use Twitter to reach us. Just tweet us with the hashtag VMWebinar. Any questions we don't get to, we will be sure to try and answer via email. If you're having any technical difficulties, I just recommend attempting to disconnect and then reconnect, and usually that solves the problem. So with my notes complete, I will hand it off to our presenter, Art Enke.
Hi, everybody. I'm very excited to be here today to chat about this very important and urgent topic, how to successfully respond to a manual Google penalty. Today, I want to cover several areas. What we're going to talk about is, hey Quinn, I'm getting a little bit of feedback. I'm not sure if that's your phone muting.
I'll go ahead and fix that. You're good to go.
All right, cool, thanks. Hey, so we're going to talk about several important things. We're going to talk about proper link profiling, documentation, successful outreach, link removal, how to use the Google Disavow links tool, how to craft and submit a successful reconsideration request. This by far is one of the most frustrating processes. If you've been through this process of receiving a manual link penalty, you know that this path is one that has to be approached strategically and rapidly, and we're here to help you accomplish that. So what is a manual penalty? This is one of those items that you have to hit the panic button for, okay? There's no other way to put it. This is one of those instances where Google has identified specifically your site and its link profile most likely for having done link building in some way that violates their guidelines, okay? The manual penalty is a clear signal that you have to take action. And we're going to talk about the differences between these. Here's just a chart showing traffic after a manual penalty was received on a particular client site. Over time, organic traffic can and will drop off if you don't address the manual penalty. There's a couple of types of penalties. Okay, just so we're clear on this, and I imagine a lot of folks here today in the webinar have been through this. You might have already submitted one or two or several reconsideration requests. We'll get to that, but I want to make sure we're all on the same page here. There are two types of penalties. Okay, so first you've got an algorithmic penalty. This is not going to bring a notification in Webmaster Tools. Okay, first of all, the algorithmic penalty happens after any major update. And you can easily track them. If your traffic decline coincides with a specific well-published Google update, then you can attribute that most likely to an algorithmic penalty if there was no message received. Now, if you did receive a message in Google Webmaster Tools, then you have received a manual penalty. In 2013, it was helpful. Google actually finally made some great improvements. In fact, in Webmaster Tools, they started communicating very specifically. If you have that manual penalty, it was kind of a mystery before. Now it's very, very apparent if you have received a manual penalty. I wanted to quickly identify some key differences between the manual penalty and the algorithmic penalty. So with the manual penalty, you can use the Disavow Links tool. You have to submit a reconsideration request, which we'll talk about. With the algorithmic penalty, you can still use the Disavow Links tool. Matt Cutts recently stated that in a video. With an algorithmic penalty, if you have not received a message, you do not submit a reconsideration request. It's not necessary, and you just don't need to do it. All right, so let's take a look under the hood. In Webmaster Tools, Google Webmaster Tools is where all this happens. Manual actions, as I mentioned earlier, is very clearly communicated thanks to some updates last year from Google. On the left-hand side, I've got an arrow pointing up here to manual actions. This is where you check to see if you've received a manual penalty. You can learn more about the specific action that you've received on the little Learn More link. So there are two key differences between the types of manual actions. Unnatural links to your site and unnatural links to your site impacts links. Now this is very key that you understand the difference between these two. On the left hand, actually I'm going to forward head. Let me go forward and back up a little bit. On the left hand side, if you see that green square there, you see unnatural links to your site or unnatural links to your site impacts links. This video on this page explains it well. Make sure that you've watched these videos, these documentation videos. If you have any questions, some things are clear and well spelled out. Other things are not so clear, and hopefully today I can help clear up some of those questions. But I'm going to go back to this previous slide. I want to emphasize that the unnatural links to your site penalty, that's the top one on the left inside this green square, that's the more severe penalty, okay? It means that you're going to see basically your entire site link portfolio looks bad, okay? It's, according to Google, illustrating a pattern of unnatural, artificial, deceptive, or manipulative links. Not a good thing if you've got the unnatural links to your site only. The unnatural links to your site impacts links, which is the second, is actually less severe. And I want to talk about that. I mean, basically, if Google sees, you know, a bunch of spammy links pointing to only a couple pages of your site, or if they detect a pattern that might have been a temporary thing, maybe perhaps you hired an SEO firm that said, yes, we're going to get you on page 1 of Google, and they went out and they built a bunch of really bad links to your site, but you happen to have a lot of great natural links to most of your site, then this is the type of review that you'll receive. If you receive the second one, the unnatural links to your site impacts links, that's much less severe. We'll talk about that. I want to talk about real quick the link analysis, and we're going to talk about link analysis followed by link removal, disavow links, reconsideration requests, and then go from there. So Google Webmaster Tools is the first bullet point on this slide. I want to emphasize that if you're only relying on third-party tools, then you're at an extreme disadvantage. It's not published how well or how much Google is measuring your site or penalizing your site based on link data, but you can't ignore it. If you just rely on a third-party tool like Majestic SEO or OpenSite or Ahrefs, Link Research Tools, you run the risk of not addressing the problem that Google is seeing. Now, many of you might be saying to yourselves at this point, this is unfair because a lot of the link data is frankly a bunch of garbage. If you've been in there much, especially on large sites, often Webmaster Tools data will report links that are really, really old, outdated, completely inaccurate. In some cases I've seen, for example, a site I was looking at the other day had, in Webmaster Tools, it was reporting about 60,000 links pointing to one particular page on a site. When you go and try to find those links, they were gone. And in fact, the data was outdated by 2 or 3 years. So even though this is frustrating, what you want to do is first look at your Google Webmaster Tools link data, okay? And you can download all those links. You can get all that link information. And then you proceed with third-party tools. Like I mentioned, Majestic is great, and I apologize if I've left out any. These are all great tools that we use frequently, and I want to talk about some more specifics here in a second. So Link Detox, Link Research Tools is one of the more popular ones. We really like it, and we use it on every project because basically you can do a bunch of link, you can analyze your links with multiple tools. You can get all your links from Webmaster Tools, and then you can filter all these through the review mode of Link Detox. And what's great about that is basically Detox becomes the filter, if you will, it's the last step to filter out and to examine all the links you input. Now, I need to put a disclaimer on this because that's not the only step. You're going to discover that there are many more steps to this. First of all, Link Research Tools is great for analyzing link networks, duplicate content, multiple IP addresses, sites that are de-indexed. Extremely toxic links are easily and quickly and very conveniently organized and reported through Link Research Tools. That's the Link Detox tool. There's a bunch of tools within Link Research Tools, but the Link Detox tool in particular is great. So the only problem with Link Research Tools is that it doesn't specifically address what could be the major issue, and that is the exact match anchor text. So on this slide, I just wanted to point out a couple of things about the importance of prioritizing exact match anchor text. This is a screenshot from Ahrefs. They've got a great free tool right on the homepage. You can submit it. You can run these all day, and what's nice about it, it gives you the Anchor's Cloud. There's other great features, but this is an example of a payday loan site, a popular payday loan site ranking high for that type of keyword. If you don't, in case you don't know, this industry in particular is notorious for building bad links, exact match links. At Vertical Measures, when we help clients establish a healthy link profile, we avoid content that mentions payday. We don't want to be in that bad neighborhood. Matt Cutts has mentioned multiple times that payday, pills, porn, gambling, all those industries typically attract very bad link spamming. So the Anchor's Cloud, so this is what I want to emphasize today. In addition to the link detox, I'm going to back up here. In addition to identifying your detox risk, you also want to pay attention to the healthy links. In detox, you're going to see everything classified as healthy or deadly or toxic or low risk. Don't pay attention to any of that before you first look at the exact match anchor text. Okay, that's how we approach projects. We've worked on a lot of projects in 2013 where we have been literally spending dozens and dozens of hours each week working with link pruning, backlink analysis, and we've done a lot of research. And what we've found, and in fact in popular case studies, successful case studies I should say, of getting successful reconsideration requests, exact match anchor text has to be part of the formula. Make sure your portfolio is well balanced, that you're not directing, and this goes back to Penguin 1.0, right? When Penguin came out, obviously it was a big shock, but the principle still remains the same. You have to focus on your exact match anchor text links. They do not look good at all for Google. All right, so let's talk about link removal and some of the important factors here. First thing is to be thorough. And this is one of those things that sparks a lot of debate. Google doesn't say specifically how many, what does thorough mean, but in some of the responses you'll see in your reconsideration request, they say that they absolutely recommend in their documentation in Webmaster Central, they want you to do your best to remove these links, okay? So reaching out to webmasters, as a general rule of thumb, we reach out 3 times. We feel that's a good attempt, and we document that. The documentation is very important, both for keeping track internally on your project, but also you can convert this spreadsheet later into Google Docs, into a Google Sheet, where you can include that actually with the reconsideration request. There's a video published by Google Webmaster Tools, or the search quality team, I should say, which basically says we review all of these reconsideration requests. I didn't include the chart in this PowerPoint today, unfortunately, but there's a chart out there that shows the number of requests that Google receives, and it's upwards of 5,000 requests per week is what Google has reported as the number of reconsideration requests. But despite all of that, apparently Google Search Quality Team reviews these manually, and if that is true, which we believe it is, you can use a spreadsheet to document your outreach, to show your best efforts. Okay, let's talk about the Disavow Links tool. Very, very powerful tool. We didn't have it before. In the past, it was very, very frustrating to try to get rid of links if you were only relying, because the dirty secret here is that when you do outreach, you're not going to get a very high percentage. All right, you might have been down this path already, but we typically see about 10% success rate is all. At maximum, we only get about 10% of the links at best to get removed. A lot of webmasters are like, hey, we'll do it if you pay us $10 or whatever. We pretty much just disavow those. We don't like to mess around. We like to do a thorough outreach, and it's quite exhaustive if you've got thousands or tens of thousands of links. So because we have the Disavow Links tool, we can be aggressive with this, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in a few minutes, but this is what it looks like. You can go right to the Google Webmaster Tools Disavow Links tool. I want to talk about the syntax on here. Very, very common for people to upload some file that's in a format other than TXT. Well, the document that Google clearly illustrates that you have to use a TXT file. Okay, so the file that you're actually uploading is not a spreadsheet. You know, don't try to upload anything other than a TXT file. That's the only supported format. In the TXT file, you can do a few things. You can disavow an entire domain, and on these bullet points, you'll see on bullet point 2 and 3 and 4, I've crossed out the HTTP colon, and I've crossed out the hashtag comments. The reason for that is, first of all, Matt Cutts published a video over the summer. I can't remember if it was August or sometime in the summer or early fall. He said, okay, don't try to document everything, the story behind each link and outreach inside your TXT file. Don't do it there. He said use the reconsideration request format to accomplish that. Okay, this is very confusing to me personally, because if you go and look at the documentation in Webmaster Tools, it says specifically you can use these 3 types of elements in your so proper syntax around with the red rectangular box here. It illustrates that you can do all these. I want to talk about this disavowing specific URLs versus domains. Matt Cutts said disavow aggressively. What I mean by that is he's basically expressed that you have to disavow at the domain level if you want to be aggressive. Don't try to take a scalpel, in his words, and try to pick apart domains. Don't look at a site and say, oh, I want these 5, and but I'm going to get rid of these other 5. Don't do that. If you see any kind of pattern of exact match anchor text that you can't get changed, you see duplicate IPs or something, link network, something that says you shouldn't have that link, just get rid of the whole domain. And in your syntax, you do domain colon, like on the previous screen. On the right, the box in the green is the proper syntax. That is the aggressive approach. He says use the disavow tool like a machete. Okay. The reconsideration request looks like this. There's a few screens, and I wanted to include these today because I think it's generally confusing when you go in there and you're trying to click around to find where this actually happens. In Webmaster Tools, you click on the reconsideration request. It'll take you here. You click the Check Manual Actions button. It'll take you to this screen, and then you'll have the Request a Review button. This is where you click, and this is where you submit your reconsideration request. And I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead to the actual reconsideration request. So what should go in here? What does a successful reconsideration request look like? Well, Vertical Measures recently created a wonderful recovery kit. Very, very comprehensive. You can get it for free on our website. Basically, we give you 3 outreach examples. We give you an example disavow links file in the proper format, the proper syntax and everything. We give you an outreach documentation spreadsheet. We give you a PDF that basically describes everything that you need to understand about the process. It's a very, very thorough, incredible value. What you go in here, well, it's free, right? So if you go in here, I wanted to point out some of the key elements that we've found have worked the best with reconsideration requests. So there's a lot of things in here, and again, as I mentioned earlier, when you receive a manual penalty, Google has basically identified you as identified your domain rather as having links that violate their guidelines. Because of that, you have to consider yourself as guilty, right? There's no going back and saying, oh, that we didn't deserve that or whatever. If they have identified you, you have to address it. And what you want to do is, I've taken snippets out of our complete recovery kit documentation. I wanted to point out a couple things. So first thing is be nice. Don't deny that you've got these bad links. You're going to have time to analyze your links and see this beforehand. But basically, you'll see successful recoveries happen when you're absolutely transparent and open about your past linking efforts. This first bullet point just illustrates, hey, be nice to Google, right? Second one, you want to communicate clearly that you understand Google's quality standards. They want to understand that your site, that you and your team, your staff, has read through and thoroughly understands Google's posted guidelines, which is not buying links and all that. The third point down here, you'll see I've got the URL to the Google Doc. And so this is where you can put your documentation. The search quality team can go in here and they can view your spreadsheet in Google Docs and then see the outreach that you've accomplished. In other words, they do not want to see a reconsideration request that says, yeah, here's some bad links, so disavowed them, and that's it. They want you to disavow the bad links. They want you to reach out to identify these sites and reach out to them. Here's a couple more points in that reconsideration request that I think are very, very key. The top one, just pointing out that, hey, we submitted the disavow file. Be sure to reference that. We followed the proper syntax. We read all your instructions. We really care about details. Here's the history. In this example, our history is we hired an SEO agency in March, whatever. Unfortunately, this agency was deploying unethical link tactics, whatever. If that was the case, follow that course. If it was you internally and knowingly built bad links, then you just absolutely have to be upfront right here and say, document, yes, we did these because everybody else was doing it or whatever, but you have to state that you understand in your organization that you've done something wrong, right? It's kind of your penance, and it's kind of silly. At the end of the day, we all work for Google, right? But this is key. Also, I want to point out that in our reconsideration requests, we itemize and we bullet point the things that we've done to correct the problem. So if in the past we used to build links through, we used to hire, let's say we used to hire contractors in the Philippines and in Pakistan and India, and we paid lots of link builders to just go and get all the links we could off of forum comments or footer links in or whatever. Then this is where you itemize that okay, we understand that this is bad. We understand. We want to communicate to Google that we understand all the best practices. We've done our best to identify and reach out to these links. The complete Google Penalty Recovery Kit. This screen is just a plug for that kit. Again, we have a very comprehensive guide. It's already there. We've done a bunch of work for you. One little side note, you don't necessarily want to use the exact verbiage. I think that should be intuitive, but we've got this complete reconsideration request letter created. If you use that same text, it's likely that somebody else is too. We wrote that from scratch, spent a lot of time crafting that, but the reconsideration request should be specific to your individual situation. Just in summary here, we've talked about a lot here. We've talked about what is a manual penalty. We've talked about link analysis using webmaster tools, using third-party tools. We've talked about link removal and the importance of contacting webmasters and documenting your efforts, the Disavow links tool, the reconsideration request, being open and honest and transparent. Those are the main keys. And this, if you follow this process, you're going to take out a lot of the frustration, and we hope that your next reconsideration request is successful. And that's all I have today.
Thanks, Art. We do have quite a few questions, so we'll go ahead and start those. And if anyone has other questions, go ahead and use your chat applet or tweet us with the hashtag VMWebinar. So our first question is from Allison, and she said, if you discovered 2,000 links from a fairly decent domain, would you still disavow that domain entirely in regards to your machete analogy?
Great question, Allison. If you got a couple thousand links from a domain that you really want to keep, first of all, I wonder about that number, the number 2,000. Is it a duplicate content issue on that site that you're linking from? For example, is it in the sidebar? Is it unintentional duplicate content that site has? It might be a great domain, but the fact that you have a quote-unquote site-wide link from that site is a very strong negative signal. Okay. In fact, if it's an exact match anchor text link, and you've got 2,000 of them from one domain pointing to your site, that is absolutely something you should either reach out to the webmaster and ask them to remove it from the sidebar, and you document that, or you should just permanent. You disavow that entire domain. The fact that it's 2,000 scares me.
Yeah, that's a scary number for sure. Allison, feel free to plug another question in there if you need that expanded. We'll go ahead and move on to a question from Charles. He asks, when you submit a disavow file, is it a single file or can you submit multiple files?
So are you talking about the Disavow links tool?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you can only have one file occupying the Disavow links tool on your particular link profile at one time. All right? You can append that. You can edit that. So once you submit that file, you'll see that it's residing in there, and you can actually go in and download and view what you have. You can also update that. So once let's say you decide to disavow a bunch of links today, and then tomorrow you find 1,000 more links you want to get rid of, you can add that to the file. You can re-upload it. And then when you're submitting your reconsideration request, if you have received a manual penalty, and you can just tell them that, say, hey, I've uploaded a file on this date with these links. We found some more. We uploaded a new file on this date. Okay?
Great. Another question from Kevin. What, in your view, would be a healthy distribution of referring pages for anchor phrases?
Great question. I'm glad that came up. I didn't address that as an anchor cloud. It really varies, and I look at a lot of healthy site link profiles. We look at a lot of unhealthy ones, obviously, but the exact match anchor should be a very small percentage, and we typically like to look at under 5%. Okay, so if you have really done well in the past for a certain keyword phrase, and that anchor text represents 5% or less of your total profile, again, that can widely vary. That's healthy. By far, your the biggest thing popping up in your anchor cloud, your anchor text backlink profile in terms of anchor text should be your domain, your brand, your website, www, whatever. if that shows up as the majority of your links, that's a healthy profile.
Okay. And then another question about exact match text links. Just to clarify, he asks, are you saying exact match text links are good or not good?
They are not good. Not good. Even if they are on a very healthy site. Now, going back to the previous question, if it's only like a small occurrence, and again, Google is approaching this from what's natural. What did you intentionally do to manipulate your results if you were using exact match anchor text? And naturally, some sites might use that anchor text, right? But it's not common. So I would say instead of killing that that link right away, you should look at your overall profile. And if that represents a very small percentage, then don't worry about it. But we're cautious, very cautious of sites that have exact match anchor text, even if they are residing on very high-quality sites, if the overall percentage is high.
And we've been talking, obviously, about responding to a manual penalty, but this question is about being proactive to not get one in the future. So this is from Stephen. He asks, we are recently new to getting links. What are your tips for quality links besides having vendors list our site, guest blog posts, and quality forums?
Yeah, great question, Stephen. So if you're in the right situation, if you're doing preemptive link analysis and preemptive link pruning, you're in a good situation. You mentioned several potentially good or bad ways to get links. Link building should be link earning, ultimately, and that's how we approach it. We first, as part of vertical measure strategy, we look at content. You should be earning links. And it's very easy to get links when you have an awesome piece of content or great functionality or great service that you can share and you're excited to share. Those links are very, very easy. You can outreach to people that are influential in the industry. Just say, hey, check out this site. It's pretty awesome. The thing you don't want to do is go out to webmasters and ask for very specific anchor text when you can avoid it. You don't want to guest blog post, hey, can you link with this particular text? What's great is when you can go out and share an awesome piece of content or a great service that you have, and you get these links naturally. That's the very best form of link building. In the past, of course, prior to Penguin, you'd be crazy to not use exact match anchor text. Unfortunately, today we're dealing with the ramifications of that. So everybody in the industry, almost everybody, I should say, a lot of people that were intentionally building links in the past, obviously, are using exact match anchor, and that should just absolutely be absent from the equation today.
Great. Then we have another question from Robert. He asks, how does all this information apply to algorithmic and non-stated penalties? Could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. So the most immediate application of this is the Disavow links tool, okay, and the third-party link analysis tools, as well as Google Webmaster Tools link data, right? So let's say you don't have a manual penalty, but you're worried about making sure you're not going to get tripped by some filter in the algorithm. You have to be cognizant of that. So the first step is to make sure that you are that you know where your links reside. You want to make sure that you have a healthy link profile, especially if you have intentionally built links in the past or had an agency build links for you in the past. That's the most immediate application is use third-party tools in conjunction with Google Webmaster Tools link data to understand your link portfolio very clearly. And if there's a problem, if you see an imbalance where you've got your keywords you're trying to rank as your major anchor text, then you need to be proactive right now and either reach out to those webmasters to have them change that anchor text to get rid of the link. And then also, if you do identify bad links, you can still use the Disavow links tool, which is great news. That's I can't remember when the exact date was when Matt Cutts announced that, but he says yes, use the Disavow links tool, even if you haven't received a link or manual link penalty.
Awesome. And I know I still have a couple more questions, but I'm going to point you towards this slide that Art has up right now. Is the Google Penalty Recovery Kit. It's on our homepage, verticalmeasures.com, or you can go to the link on the image. And this is an awesome resource that will probably answer a lot of your questions. It's a really long guide full of spreadsheets, example, disavow links tools, basically anything you need to help recover or also be proactive in not getting a penalty in the future. So definitely go to our webpage, download that. It's a free guide, so it's really comprehensive about everything that Art's talked about today. And we do have a webinar coming up next month. It's with our CEO, Arnie Ken, and he'll be talking about content marketing, and he is quite the expert on that. So we'll be building off of a lot of that you heard here about talking about strong content and building links through content. So he'll be talking about that and how to lead yourself into 2014 in a strong way in the content marketing world. So I want to thank you, Art. Thanks for all the information today. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
And